I am Natalie, 34, and I always thought family came first. That was until last Christmas, when my own sister convinced our parents to exclude me from our annual family trip. When I finally stood up for myself, they called me selfish. Have you ever felt like family loyalty only goes one way? Stick around to see how I learned to stand up for myself when my own family decided I wasn't worth including in their holiday plans, then had the audacity to call me selfish when I finally set boundaries. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you've ever had to deal with family drama during the holidays, this story might feel familiar. Hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences that might help you navigate your own family challenges. Now, let's get into how my family betrayed me and how I finally found my voice. Growing up, I believed nothing was more important than family. My parents, Eleanor and Robert, raised my younger sister Vanessa and me with the idea that family always comes first. We were a tight-knit unit, celebrating holidays together, supporting each other through hard times, and sharing in each other's successes. Or so I thought. I'm Natalie, a 34-year-old IT project manager. I've worked incredibly hard to get where I am today. After graduating with my computer science degree, I put in long hours, took on challenging projects, and climbed the corporate ladder. My dedication paid off when I was able to purchase my own home 3 years ago, a beautiful 3-bedroom house with a spacious basement that I personally renovated into a cozy entertainment area. When my sister Vanessa, 29, and her husband Trevor got married last year, they were struggling financially. Trevor had just started a new job in marketing, and Vanessa was between positions after leaving her job as a dental assistant. They claimed they were saving for a house, but needed some time to build up their down payment. Being the supportive sister I am, I offered them my spare bedroom and basement area at a significantly reduced rent, thinking it would be temporary, maybe 6 months at most. You can stay until you get on your feet, I told them, genuinely wanting to help. Family supports family, right? Vanessa hugged me tightly. You're the best sister ever, Nat. We promise we won't overstay our welcome. That was 11 months ago, and there were still no signs of them moving out. In fact, they had settled in quite comfortably, treating my home as if it were their own, but not in a good way. Trevor particularly had an entitled attitude, leaving messes for me to clean up, inviting friends over without asking, and even using my expensive cooking equipment without permission. Trevor, could you please ask before using my stand mixer? It was pretty expensive, I mentioned one day after finding it covered in dried batter. Oh, come on, we're family, he replied dismissively. Don't be so uptight about your stuff. These small incidents started building up, but I kept making excuses for them. Family supports family after all. I continued working hard at my job, often putting in extra hours to secure bonuses that, ironically, helped subsidize my sister and her husband's living expenses. My best friend Maya was the first to point out the imbalance in my relationship with Vanessa and Trevor. Natalie, they're taking advantage of you, Maya said during one of our coffee dates. You're practically supporting them financially while they buy new clothes and go out to fancy restaurants. When was the last time they even thanked you? I brushed off her concerns. They're family, Maya. They'd do the same for me. As December approached, I found myself getting excited about our annual family Christmas trip. For the past 8 years, we had rented a cozy cabin in Vermont for a week, enjoying the snow, playing board games by the fireplace, and creating memories together. It was a tradition I cherished, one that helped us reconnect as a family despite our busy lives. I had already requested time off work, a difficult feat given my project deadlines, and had been setting aside ideas for activities and meals we could enjoy together. I even bought Vanessa and Trevor special matching sweaters as an early Christmas gift, hoping to make this year's trip extra special after what had been a challenging year for everyone. What I didn't realize was that this year, our family Christmas was about to take an unexpected and painful turn, one that would force me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about my family and my place within it. It was a typical Tuesday evening in early December when I came home from work earlier than usual. My project meeting had been canceled, giving me a rare opportunity to relax before dinner. As I quietly entered through the front door, I heard Vanessa and Trevor talking in the kitchen, their voices animated with excitement. Mom said the resort has hot tubs in every suite, Vanessa was saying. And there's a spa where we can get massages after skiing all day. That sounds amazing, Trevor replied. So much better than that cramped cabin in Vermont. I'm glad your parents decided to upgrade this year. I froze in the hallway, confusion washing over me.
Resort? Spa?
This didn't sound like our usual Vermont cabin. I still feel a little bad about Natalie, though, Vanessa continued, her voice dropping slightly. But she'll be fine on her own for Christmas. She's always working anyway. My heart dropped to my stomach. Were they talking about our family Christmas trip? The one we'd been taking together for 8 years? Unable to contain myself, I stepped into the kitchen. What resort are you talking about? Vanessa and Trevor spun around, their faces registering shock at seeing me standing there. Natalie, you're home early, Vanessa stammered, exchanging a quick glance with Trevor. What resort, Vanessa? I repeated, my voice steady despite the anxiety building inside me. After an uncomfortable silence, Trevor shrugged. Might as well tell her now. Vanessa sighed. We're going to Colorado this year instead of Vermont. Mom and Dad found this amazing luxury resort with ski-in/ski-out access. And when was anyone planning to tell me about this change of plans? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Well, Vanessa hesitated, looking uncomfortable. The thing is, we thought maybe you wouldn't be able to come this year. Why wouldn't I be able to come? I already requested the time off work, I said, confusion turning to hurt. Trevor crossed his arms. Vanessa, just be honest with her. Vanessa shot him an irritated look before turning back to me.
Fine.
I suggested to Mom and Dad that maybe this year should just be the 4 of us. You're always so controlling on these trips, planning every minute and showing off how successful you are. I felt like I'd been slapped. Controlling? I plan activities because no one else does. And how exactly do I show off? Come on, Natalie, Trevor interjected with a condescending tone. You're always talking about your big projects at work, your promotions, your bonuses. Not everyone wants to hear about how great your life is all the time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The activities I planned were things everyone enjoyed, and I rarely talked about work unless someone asked. This felt like a complete distortion of reality. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hi, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I just heard about the trip to Colorado. There was a long pause. Oh, Natalie. Yes, we were going to tell you about that. When exactly? Christmas morning. I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. Don't be dramatic, dear. We just thought, well, with how busy you always are with work, you might appreciate having some time to yourself this year. Did Vanessa suggest excluding me from the family Christmas trip? I asked directly. Another pause. She mentioned you might want some space. And frankly, sweetie, you do tend to take over the planning every year. We thought a change might be nice for everyone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother was confirming that they had intentionally planned to exclude me from our family tradition, apparently at my sister's suggestion. I see, I said, my voice hollow. And you all decided this without even asking me. Now, Natalie, don't make this into a bigger deal than it is, my mother said, her tone shifting to one of mild irritation. You can use the time to catch up on work. You're always saying how busy you are. After hanging up, I turned back to Vanessa and Trevor, who were watching me with a mixture of guilt and defiance. How long have you all been planning this? I asked. A couple of months, Vanessa admitted. Mom found the resort back in October. 2 months. They had been planning this behind my back for 2 months, while I was excitedly preparing for what I thought would be our normal family Christmas. That night, after retreating to my room to process this betrayal, I called Maya, tears streaming down my face as I recounted what had happened. I can't believe they would do this to you, Maya said, outrage evident in her voice. After everything you've done for them, especially letting Vanessa and Trevor live in your house practically rent-free. I keep thinking about all the Christmases where I made sure everyone had a good time, I said, remembering how I'd always gone out of my way to accommodate everyone's preferences. Last year, I even changed our dinner reservations last minute because Trevor wanted to try a different restaurant. Natalie, this is a pattern, Maya said gently. They take you for granted because you always put them first. Maybe it's time you started putting yourself first for a change. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized Maya was right. This wasn't just about a Christmas trip. It was about years of giving without receiving, of being taken advantage of by the people who should value me the most. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The morning after discovering my family's betrayal, I woke up feeling hollow. I had barely slept, my mind racing with thoughts of confrontation, hurt, and disbelief. Part of me wanted to lash out in anger, while another part wondered if I had somehow misunderstood the situation. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe I had been difficult on past trips without realizing it. I decided to try having a calm, rational conversation with Vanessa before heading to work. I found her in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while sipping coffee from my favorite mug, the one with "World's Best Sister" printed on it, which now felt like a cruel joke. "Vanessa, can we talk about yesterday?" I asked, pouring myself some coffee. She glanced up, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Sure, I guess. I'm trying to understand why you'd suggest excluding me from our family Christmas," I said, keeping my voice level. "If I've done something to upset you, I'd rather you tell me directly instead of going behind my back." Vanessa sighed dramatically, setting down her phone. "It's not one specific thing, Natalie. It's just you always have to be the center of attention. You bought this house, you have this amazing career, and whenever we're all together, everything has to be done your way." "That's not fair," I countered. "I plan activities because I want everyone to have a good time, not because I want control." "Well, that's how it feels," she said, her voice taking on an edge I'd heard more frequently in recent months. "Do you know how hard it is to be your little sister? Mom and Dad are constantly saying, 'Why can't you be more like Natalie?' Natalie owns her own home. Natalie got another promotion." I was taken aback. "I had no idea you felt that way. But excluding me from Christmas isn't the solution." Trevor walked in at that moment, immediately sensing the tension. "What's going on?" "Natalie's upset about Colorado," Vanessa told him. "Still," Trevor said with an exaggerated eye roll, "don't you think you're being a bit dramatic? It's just one Christmas." His dismissive tone stung. "It's not just about Christmas. It's about being deliberately left out by my own family. Look," I continued, trying to find a compromise, "what if I joined you for part of the trip? I could come for a few days and then give you all some space." Vanessa looked at Trevor, who shook his head slightly. "I don't think that would work," she said. "The resort is fully booked now anyway. There wouldn't be room for you." I highly doubted that was true, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was my mother calling. I answered, hoping she might have reconsidered. "Natalie, your father and I have been talking," she began without preamble. "We think you're overreacting about this Christmas trip. Vanessa says you've been making her feel guilty this morning." I couldn't believe it. "Mom, I just tried to have a conversation with her about why they went behind my back." "See, this is exactly the problem," my mother said with a sigh. "You always think everything should go your way. Maybe you need to learn that's not how the world works." "But excluding me from a family tradition without even discussing it with me is okay?" I asked, incredulous. "We're not excluding you," she insisted, though we both knew that's exactly what they were doing. "We're just doing something different this year. Your father thinks it would be good for you to spend some time on your own." I glanced over at my father's framed photo on the bookshelf, feeling betrayed that he wouldn't even speak to me directly about this. He had always been passive, avoiding conflict by letting my mother handle difficult conversations, but this hurt more than usual. After hanging up, I tried once more with Vanessa. "I just found out you've all been planning this for months. Why keep it a secret from me if there wasn't something wrong about it?" Vanessa at least had the decency to look slightly ashamed. "We knew you'd make a big deal out of it." "Like I'm doing now?" I asked, my voice tight with emotion. "Exactly like you're doing now," Trevor interjected, not even looking up from his phone. I was about to respond when I noticed a stack of mail on the counter, including what looked like a credit card statement addressed to Vanessa. The envelope was open, and I could see a charge from a high-end outdoor retailer for over $600. Is that for ski gear? I asked, gesturing to the statement. Vanessa quickly gathered up the mail. That's private. You used the money that was supposed to go toward your rent to buy expensive ski gear for a trip you were planning to exclude me from? I asked, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. We needed proper equipment, Trevor said defensively. And it's not like you're hurting for money. That comment was the final straw. It confirmed what I had suspected but didn't want to believe. They saw me as nothing more than a convenience, a resource to be used rather than a sister to be respected. I think we need to have a serious conversation about your living arrangement here, I said quietly, my decision crystallizing. But right now, I need to get to work. As I walked out the door, I heard Trevor mutter, "See what I mean? Always making everything about money." What he failed to understand was that it wasn't about the money at all. It was about respect, consideration, and family loyalty, all of which seemed to be in short supply in my household these days. 2 weeks before Christmas, I came home from a particularly exhausting day at work. We had been racing to finish a major project before the holidays, and I'd spent hours in meetings trying to resolve last-minute issues. All I wanted was a quiet evening to decompress. Instead, as I pulled into my driveway, I noticed several unfamiliar cars parked outside my house. The moment I opened my front door, I was hit with the sound of laughter, music, and the distinct smell of mulled wine, a traditional part of our family holiday celebrations. Confused, I made my way to the living room to find it filled with people, including my parents, several cousins, and family friends. My living room had been transformed with Christmas decorations I hadn't put up, and a banner that read "Colorado Bound" hung across my fireplace mantel. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They were having a pre-trip party in my house for a trip I wasn't invited to. Vanessa spotted me first, her smile faltering slightly before she composed herself. "Natalie, you're home early. What's going on here?" I asked, though it was painfully obvious. "Just a little get-together," Trevor said, raising his glass of what appeared to be my expensive whiskey. To get everyone excited for the trip. My mother approached, giving me an awkward hug. "Natalie, dear, we were going to clean everything up before you got home. We know how particular you are about your things." I looked around at the group, noticing that everyone was avoiding eye contact. They all knew I had been excluded from the trip and were apparently perfectly fine with it. "So, everyone knew about this trip except me?" I asked, my voice carrying across the room, causing a hush to fall over the gathering. My cousin Amber looked uncomfortable. "We thought you couldn't make it because of work." "That's what we were told," added my Uncle Paul, glancing at my mother. Before I could respond, I overheard Vanessa in the corner, speaking to our cousin Grace. She didn't notice me approaching as she said, "Honestly, it's a relief Natalie won't be there. All she does is work anyway. Total workaholic with no life. The cabin trips were always so boring with her planning every minute." The casual cruelty of her words stopped me in my tracks. Is that really how my sister saw me? As a boring workaholic with no life? After everything I'd done for her? As I stood there processing this betrayal, I noticed Trevor in my home office, the one room I had specifically asked them to keep out of. He was showing my father something on my computer, my personal computer, and had somehow spilled red wine on my white carpet, leaving a spreading stain that would be nearly impossible to remove. "Trevor," I called out, my patience finally snapping. "What are you doing in my office? That room is off limits, and you know it." Trevor looked up, annoyed at being interrupted. "Relax, I was just showing your dad some photos of the resort. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal? You're in my private office, using my computer without permission, and you've spilled wine all over my carpet." "It's just a carpet," he said dismissively. "We'll clean it up. Stop making a scene." That's when something inside me broke. All the months of disrespect, of being taken for granted, of bending over backward to accommodate everyone else while receiving nothing in return, culminated in this moment. "Everyone needs to leave," I said, my voice quiet but firm.
Now.
My mother approached, her expression a mixture of embarrassment and irritation. "Natalie, don't be ridiculous. You're overreacting." "Am I?" I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You all planned a family trip without me, lied to my face about it for months, and now you're having a party in my house to celebrate? How exactly am I overreacting?" "See," Vanessa said to the room at large. "This is exactly why we wanted a break. Everything always has to be about Natalie." "Selfish as always," Trevor added. "Ruining the party mood just because you're not the center of attention." I looked around at the faces of my family members, searching for anyone, who might stand up for me. But they all looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to speak up. In that moment, I had a flashback to all the times I had put my family first, all the sacrifices I had made. I remembered postponing a vacation with Maya last year to help my parents move. I thought about the countless times I had rearranged my work schedule to accommodate family events. I recalled how I had spent hours helping Vanessa prepare for job interviews, and how I had welcomed her and Trevor into my home when they needed help. And this was how they repaid me, with exclusion, disrespect, and gaslighting me into thinking I was the problem. "I want everyone out of my house in the next 10 minutes, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "And, Vanessa, Trevor, we need to talk about your living arrangements here. This isn't working anymore." "You can't kick us out," Vanessa exclaimed. "Where are we supposed to go?" "I'm not kicking you out tonight," I clarified. "But things are going to change. Now please, get everyone out of my house." As people awkwardly gathered their things and filed out, I overheard my mother telling my aunt, "She's always been dramatic. She'll calm down by tomorrow." But I knew I wouldn't. Something fundamental had shifted inside me. For the first time, I saw my family dynamics with perfect clarity, and I knew I couldn't go back to being the person who always gave without receiving anything in return. That night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet again, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the mess they had left behind, including crumbs ground into my couch and sticky wine rings on my coffee table. I picked up a framed photo of our family from last Christmas, all of us smiling in front of the Vermont cabin. Had it all been a lie even then? With tears streaming down my face, I made a decision. It was time to stand up for myself, even if it meant standing alone. The day after the party disaster, I called in sick to work for the first time in years. I needed time to think, to plan, and to gather my courage for what I knew would be a difficult confrontation. I spent the morning cleaning up the mess from the party, scrubbing at the wine stain in my office that had already set into the carpet, a permanent reminder of the disrespect shown to my home and boundaries. By midday, I had reached out to Maya, who immediately offered to come over. "I'm bringing lunch and moral support," she said, her loyalty a stark contrast to my family's betrayal. Maya arrived with my favorite comfort food, Thai takeout, and her boyfriend Ethan, who happened to be a real estate attorney. "I hope you don't mind that I brought Ethan," Maya said as they walked in. When I told him what happened, he thought he might be able to offer some legal advice. Ethan gave me a sympathetic smile. "Maya's been telling me about your situation. I'm really sorry you're going through this." Over lunch, I explained everything in detail, from the Christmas trip exclusion to the party in my house, and all the months of disrespect leading up to it. "I just don't know what to do," I admitted. "Part of me wants to throw them out immediately, but they're still family, and I don't want to be cruel." "You're not being cruel by setting boundaries," Maya insisted. "They've been taking advantage of you for almost a year." Ethan nodded in agreement. "From a legal standpoint, since they've been paying you rent, even if it's below market rate, they're technically tenants. That means you can't just change the locks without notice, but you can start a formal eviction process." "What would that involve?" I asked. "Since there's no formal lease, they're month-to-month tenants," Ethan explained. "In this state, that means you need to give them 30 days, written notice. You don't need a reason, just the notice." "And what if they refuse to leave?" I asked, imagining the drama that would ensue. "Then you have to file for formal eviction through the courts," Ethan said. "But let's hope it doesn't come to that." We spent the next hour drafting a formal notice, making sure it was legally sound but also firm. I decided to give them until January 15th, well after the holidays, to find a new place and move out. It seemed more than fair given the circumstances. What about now, though? I asked. I can't imagine living with them for another month after everything that's happened. Maya exchanged a look with Ethan. You said they're going to be out all day tomorrow at some pre-trip shopping thing, right? I nodded. They mentioned something about it this morning before they left for work. Then here's what I think you should do, Maya said, leaning forward intently. The plan was straightforward but decisive. The next day, while Vanessa and Trevor were out, I would change the locks and security code on my house. I would pack up their essential belongings, things they would need immediately like clothes and toiletries, and leave them in boxes on the covered porch along with a formal notice giving them 30 days to collect the rest of their things and find new housing. It seems so harsh, I said, though I knew it was necessary. Harsh would be throwing all their stuff out on the lawn, Maya pointed out. You're being more than reasonable by packing their essentials and giving them time to get the rest. Ethan added, just make sure you document everything. Take photos of their belongings before you pack them and make an inventory list. That way they can't claim you damaged or lost anything. The next day, after confirming that Vanessa and Trevor had indeed left for their shopping trip, I put our plan into action. I called a locksmith who came and changed all the exterior locks. Then I reprogrammed the security system with a new code. Next came the difficult part, packing up their immediate necessities. I carefully selected clothes for a week, toiletries, medications, and personal items, documenting everything with photos as Ethan had suggested. I placed these in sturdy boxes and left them on the covered porch, protected from the elements. Finally, I taped the formal notice to the top box, which stated clearly that they had 30 days to arrange for the removal of their remaining belongings and to find new housing. As I completed these tasks, I felt a mixture of emotions, relief and empowerment for finally standing up for myself, but also guilt and sadness that it had come to this. My family had pushed me to this point, but I still couldn't help wondering if I was doing the right thing. By late afternoon, my phone started ringing incessantly, my parents' names flashing on the screen. I let the calls go to voicemail, not ready to face their reaction yet. The voicemails started piling up, each one more frantic and angry than the last. Natalie, what have you done? Vanessa just called us crying. Call us back immediately, my mother's voice demanded. This is completely unacceptable behavior, Natalie. We raised you better than this. My father's usually calm voice sounded strained. After the fifth call, I decided to listen to Vanessa's voicemail. I can't believe you would do this to us, she screamed into the phone. We're family. You've changed the locks? Where are we supposed to go? Trevor is talking about suing you for a legal eviction. You're going to regret this, Natalie. Despite the threatening tone, I stood firm in my decision. I sent a single text message to my parents. I've given Vanessa and Trevor 30 days notice as legally required. Their essential belongings are packed on the porch. They are welcome to stay with you until they find their own place. I need some space right now and won't be answering calls for a while. Then I blocked their numbers, needing peace from the barrage of guilt-tripping messages that I knew would continue. As evening fell, I watched through the window as Vanessa and Trevor pulled into the driveway. I saw their expressions change from confusion to shock as they tried their keys in the new locks. Trevor pounded on the door, yelling my name, while Vanessa discovered the boxes and the notice. Her face contorted with rage as she read it, and then both of them started taking pictures with their phones, presumably as evidence for their threatened legal action. Finally, after more pounding and yelling that I steadfastly ignored, they loaded the boxes into their car and drove away, presumably to my parents' house. That night, alone in my quiet house for the first time in nearly a year, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. I had taken back my space, my boundaries, and most importantly, my self-respect. It wouldn't be easy going forward. I knew there would be more confrontations and guilt trips to come, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally putting myself first. The days following what I now thought of as the lockout were a tsunami of reactions from family members. My phone was flooded with texts and voicemails from extended family who had apparently heard a very one-sided version of events. I had blocked my immediate family's numbers, but cousins, aunts, and uncles I rarely spoke with suddenly had plenty to say about my actions. "How could you put your own sister out on the street right before Christmas?" texted my cousin Rachel, who I hadn't spoken to in at least 2 years. "Your parents are devastated. Is this really how you want to treat your family?" wrote my Uncle Thomas. The messages ranged from concern to downright hostile, but they all had one thing in common. They were based on Vanessa's version of events, which painted me as an unreasonable tyrant who had suddenly snapped and thrown them out without warning or cause. After 2 days of this, I decided to unblock my parents' numbers, thinking perhaps a calm conversation might be possible. It wasn't. "Natalie, we've raised you better than this," my mother said the moment I answered. "Vanessa and Trevor are staying with us now, and she's been crying for 2 days straight. How could you be so heartless?" "Mom, did Vanessa tell you why I asked them to leave?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "She said you got upset about some party and overreacted completely," my mother replied. "Natalie, everyone has parties. It's not a reason to throw your sister out of your home." That party was to celebrate a family trip I was deliberately excluded from, I reminded her. "A trip you all lied to me about for months." "That's different," she insisted. "And besides, they've been perfect tenants otherwise." I almost laughed at that. Perfect tenants? "They've been late with rent multiple times, they've damaged my property, and they've completely disrespected my boundaries. The party was just the last straw." "Well, your father, and I think you're being completely unreasonable," she said. "We've had to postpone our Colorado trip now because of all this drama you've created." Of course, that was her concern, not the fact that her daughters were at odds, but that her vacation plans were disrupted. "I'm sorry your trip is postponed," I said, not feeling sorry at all. "But my decision stands. They have 30 days to collect their things and find a new place." "And what about Christmas?" she demanded. "Are you planning to spend it alone out of spite?" I hadn't actually thought that far ahead, but her accusatory tone made my decision easy. "Yes, I think I will be spending Christmas on my own this year. I need some time to think about what family really means to me." After hanging up, I felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. This would be my first Christmas away from my family, and while part of me mourned that, another part felt relieved to be free from the obligation and the pretense that we were a happy, functional family. The next day, I received a more unexpected call from my cousin Grace, the one I had overheard Vanessa talking to at the party. "Natalie, I just wanted to check in on you," she said, her tone genuinely concerned. "I've been hearing all kinds of things from Aunt Eleanor and Vanessa, but I wanted to hear your side." I was touched by her reaching out and gave her a brief summary of what had happened, including the excluded Christmas trip and the months of disrespect leading up to the party incident. "I had no idea," Grace said. "At the party, Vanessa just said you couldn't make the trip because of work commitments. I should have known something was off when she was bad-mouthing you to everyone." "She was doing that to everyone, not just you?" I asked, surprised at the extent of Vanessa's betrayal. "Yeah, she was telling anyone who would listen that you're a control freak who thinks you're better than everyone because of your job," Grace admitted. "I didn't believe it, which is why I wanted to call you directly." Her honesty was refreshing amidst all the accusations and guilt trips. "Thank you for that, Grace. It means a lot." "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing," she said. "They were taking advantage of you, and the way they went behind your back with the trip was really messed up." After speaking with Grace, I felt slightly less alone in my stance. It gave me the courage to reach out to my workplace friends, some of whom I had grown close to over the years, but had never really shared my personal struggles with. To my surprise, when I finally opened up about what was happening, my coworkers were overwhelmingly supportive. "Family or not, no one has the right to treat you that way," said Daniel, our team lead. And changing the locks was actually pretty restrained, considering. Barbara, our department admin who had become something of a maternal figure to me at work, was particularly outraged on my behalf. "Honey, I've been married for 35 years and raised 3 children. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect and love. What they did shows neither. As the holiday season progressed, I found myself dreading the thought of Christmas Day. Despite my brave words to my mother, the idea of spending the day completely alone filled me with a profound sadness. Maya and Ethan had invited me to join them at his parents' house, but I felt uncomfortable intruding on their family time. One evening, as I was decorating a small Christmas tree I had bought for myself, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ethan standing there with a thick folder. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," he said. "But I wanted to give you this in person." The folder contained printouts of tenant law in our state, a formal response to any potential legal threat from Trevor, and a personal letter from Ethan explaining that I had followed all legal requirements and was well within my rights to issue the 30-day notice. "Maya mentioned that you were worried about Trevor's threats to sue," Ethan explained. "I wanted you to know that legally, you're on solid ground. They don't have a case." His kindness brought tears to my eyes.
Thank you, Ethan.
"I can't tell you how much I appreciate this." "There's one more thing," he said, pulling out an envelope. "Maya and I were talking, and we know you didn't want to intrude on our family Christmas, but my parents are actually having a big open house on Christmas Eve. Lots of friends and neighbors drop by throughout the day. We'd really love it if you'd come." The invitation was like a lifeline thrown to someone drowning. I wouldn't have to be alone on Christmas after all, and it wouldn't feel like intruding on an intimate family gathering. "I'd love to," I said, genuinely smiling for what felt like the first time in weeks. As Christmas approached, the contrast between my chosen family, friends who supported and respected me, and my biological family, who continued to pressure and guilt me, couldn't have been more stark. It made me realize that perhaps this painful experience was actually leading me toward a healthier understanding of what family should really mean. A week before Christmas, I was deeply focused on finalizing a project at work when my office phone rang. It was the receptionist from the lobby. "Natalie, there are some people here to see you. They say they're your family, and it's urgent." My stomach dropped. My family? Did they give names? A woman named Eleanor, a man named Robert, and a younger couple, Vanessa and Trevor, I believe. I couldn't believe they would show up at my workplace unannounced. It was a new low in their attempts to pressure me. "Please tell them I'm in a meeting and can't be interrupted," I said, my heart racing. "And Louise, if they refuse to leave, please call security." 10 minutes later, my cell phone exploded with texts from Vanessa. "Can't believe you wouldn't even come down to talk to us. We drove all the way here to try to work things out, and you hide in your office. Mom is crying in the car now. Hope you're happy." I turned off my phone and tried to focus on work, but my concentration was shattered. When I finally left the building at the end of the day, I cautiously checked the parking lot, relieved to find no sign of them. The next morning, I received an email from my mother with the subject line, "Family Intervention." The message explained that they were deeply concerned about my mental state and believed my irrational behavior was due to work stress and possibly depression. They wanted me to join them for a family therapy session to address these issues before they get worse. It was a masterclass in gaslighting, attempting to frame my perfectly reasonable boundary setting as a mental health crisis. They weren't concerned about me. They were concerned about losing their convenient arrangement and their control over me. I deleted the email without responding and warned security at my workplace that my family might return and cause a disturbance. They assured me they would handle it if necessary. 2 days later, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Natalie, it's Trevor. Don't hang up." "What do you want, Trevor?" I asked coldly. "Look, this has all gotten out of hand," he said, his voice uncharacteristically conciliatory. "Vanessa and I have been talking and we want to work this out. We value our relationship with you." His sudden change in tone made me suspicious. "Really? Because last week you were threatening to sue me for illegal eviction." "That was said in the heat of the moment," he claimed. We were shocked and upset. But we've had time to think, and family is what's important, especially during the holidays. His words sounded rehearsed, and I didn't trust his sincerity for a second. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We'd like to come back and talk. Maybe we can work out a new arrangement for our living situation that makes everyone happy. The arrangement was clearly outlined in the notice I left you. I reminded him. You have until January 15th to find a new place and collect your belongings. But Natalie, there's something else you should know, he said, his voice dropping. Vanessa is pregnant. The bombshell hit me hard. My sister, pregnant? This changed everything, or did it? When did she find out? I asked, trying to process this new information. A couple of weeks ago, Trevor said. We were going to tell everyone during the Colorado trip. It's why we really need stability right now. You wouldn't put your pregnant sister out on the street, would you? The timing seemed suspiciously convenient. And if Vanessa had known for weeks, why hadn't she mentioned it during any of our confrontations? It seemed like the kind of information she would have used immediately to gain sympathy. Congratulations to both of you, I said carefully. But this doesn't change the fact that you need to find your own place. You have income, you have savings, and you have my parents who are clearly willing to help you. The notice stands. Trevor's friendly facade cracked instantly. You really are heartless, aren't you? Your own sister is pregnant, and you don't even care. Everyone was right about you. After hanging up, I immediately called Maya to tell her about this new development. Do you think she's really pregnant? Maya asked after I recounted the conversation. I don't know, I admitted. It's possible. But the timing of this revelation seems very convenient. Even if she is, Maya pointed out, it doesn't change the fact that they disrespected you and your home, excluded you from family events, and have been taking advantage of you for months. Pregnancy doesn't give someone a free pass to treat others badly. She was right, of course. If Vanessa was truly pregnant, I would be happy for her and supportive in appropriate ways, but that didn't mean letting her and Trevor continue to live in my house and disrespect my boundaries. The next day, I discovered that Vanessa had taken the pregnancy announcement to social media, complete with a heart-wrenching post about how her own sister had thrown her out despite knowing about the baby, a complete distortion of the truth. The comments were filled with people expressing outrage on her behalf, including several extended family members and mutual friends. I was hurt to see people I thought knew me believing I would be so callous, but I refused to engage in a social media war. Instead, I focused on preparing for Christmas and strengthening the relationships with people who had shown me genuine support and respect. 3 days before Christmas, I received a formal letter from a lawyer representing Vanessa and Trevor, claiming harassment and illegal eviction. Despite Ethan's reassurances that I had followed proper procedure, seeing the official letterhead and legal language was intimidating. I immediately forwarded the letter to Ethan, who called me within the hour. This is a scare tactic, he assured me after reading the letter. There's nothing here that would hold up in court. You gave proper notice, you didn't change the locks until they were out of the house, and you provided access to their belongings. Don't respond to this, and definitely don't let it pressure you into changing your mind. His confidence was reassuring, but the stress of the ongoing conflict was taking its toll. I found myself struggling to sleep, constantly checking my phone for new messages or emails from family members, and feeling anxious every time my doorbell rang. The day before Christmas Eve, my mother made one final attempt, leaving a voicemail that was clearly meant to pull at my heartstrings. Natalie, it's Mom. I know you're angry with us, and maybe we could have handled things differently with the Colorado trip. But it's Christmas and we're family. Vanessa is expecting your niece or nephew, and this should be a time of celebration, not division. Please reconsider joining us for Christmas dinner at our house. You can bring your friend Maya if you want. Just, please don't spend Christmas alone out of spite. Call me back. Her message almost worked. For a brief moment, I considered accepting, picturing a Christmas reconciliation where everyone acknowledged their mistakes and we moved forward as a stronger family. But then I remembered the months of disrespect, the deliberate exclusion, the attempts to manipulate and gaslight me. Nothing had really changed, they had just escalated their tactics when their initial approaches failed. I deleted the voicemail without responding and focused instead on the plans I had made with Maya, Ethan, and his family. This Christmas would be different from any I had experienced before, but perhaps that was exactly what I needed. Christmas Eve arrived with a light snowfall that blanketed the neighborhood in white, creating a postcard-perfect holiday scene. As I prepared to head to Ethan's parents' open house, I felt a mixture of emotions, sadness for the family traditions I was missing, but also a sense of freedom and possibility. I had spent the morning baking cookies to bring to the gathering, finding comfort in the familiar holiday ritual. As I was packaging them up, my doorbell rang. Cautiously, I checked through the peephole, half expecting to see my parents or Vanessa making one last dramatic holiday plea. Instead, I was surprised to see my Aunt Catherine, my mother's sister, standing on my porch with a gift bag in hand. "Aunt Catherine," I said as I opened the door. "This is unexpected." She gave me a warm smile. "I hope I'm not intruding, Natalie. I wanted to drop this off and check in on you." I invited her in, curious about her visit. Aunt Catherine had always been kind to me, but we weren't particularly close. She lived in another state and usually only came to town for major family events. "I've been hearing a lot about what's been going on," she said as she accepted the cup of coffee I offered. "From your mother, of course, but I wanted to hear your side." For the third time that month, I found myself explaining the situation, the exclusion from the family trip, the months of disrespect from Vanessa and Trevor, and my decision to finally set boundaries. To my surprise, Aunt Catherine nodded in understanding. "Your mother did the same thing to me when we were younger," she revealed. "Not exactly the same circumstances, but she excluded me from things, made me feel less than. It's why we've never been as close as sisters should be." I was shocked by this revelation. I had no idea. "Eleanor has always had a tendency to play favorites," Aunt Catherine continued. "When we were growing up, she was our parents' favorite, and she got used to getting her way. It seems she's doing the same with Vanessa." Her insight into my mother's behavior helped me see the family dynamics from a new perspective. It wasn't just about me and Vanessa, it was a pattern that had been established long before. "I want you to know that not everyone in the family thinks you're in the wrong here," Aunt Catherine assured me. "Some of us understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of this kind of treatment." Her support meant more than she could know. "Thank you for coming by, Aunt Catherine. It means a lot to me." "I also wanted to give you this," she said, handing me the gift bag she had brought. Inside was a beautiful ornament, hand-painted with the year. "It's a tradition I started when my own children were born," she explained. "A new ornament every year to mark the passage of time. I thought you might appreciate starting some new traditions of your own." Her thoughtfulness brought tears to my eyes. Here was a family member who truly saw me and respected my feelings, a stark contrast to the manipulation and guilt-tripping I had been experiencing from my immediate family. After Aunt Catherine left, I carefully hung the ornament on my small Christmas tree, feeling a renewed sense of optimism about the day ahead. The open house at Ethan's parents' home was exactly what I needed, a warm, welcoming atmosphere filled with people who had no expectations of me beyond enjoying the celebration. Ethan's mother, Judith, greeted me with a hug as if I were an old friend rather than a new acquaintance. "Maya has told us so much about you," she said. "We're so glad you could join us today." Throughout the afternoon and evening, I mingled with Ethan's family and their friends, enjoying conversations that didn't revolve around family drama or holiday obligations. Maya stayed by my side, introducing me to people and making sure I felt included. "How are you holding up?" she asked during a quiet moment. "Better than I expected," I admitted. "Being here, with people who have no agenda, it's refreshing." "You know," Maya said thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about what you said about your aunt's visit. Sometimes the family we choose is more supportive than the family we're born into." Her words resonated deeply with me. Looking around at the gathering, I realized I was surrounded by people who embodied what family should be: supportive, respectful, and genuinely caring. Christmas Day itself was quieter. I had been invited to join Maya and Ethan for dinner with his immediate family, but I decided to take some time for myself instead. I spent the morning video chatting with friends from college who lived in different parts of the country, each of them expressing support when I briefly explained my family situation. In the afternoon, I decided to do something completely different from my usual Christmas routine. I volunteered at a local community center serving holiday meals, finding unexpected joy in connecting with strangers and focusing on giving rather than receiving. As I drove home that evening, I realized that despite spending the day without my biological family, I hadn't felt alone at all. In fact, I felt more connected to myself and to a broader sense of community than I had in years. The week between Christmas and New Year's brought an unexpected development. My father showed up at my door alone, looking tired and somewhat defeated. "Can we talk?" he asked when I opened the door. I hesitated but ultimately invited him in. We sat in my living room, the tension palpable between us. "I owe you an apology," he began, surprising me. "I should have stood up for you when all this started. I should have insisted you be included in the trip." His admission was unexpected. My father had always been passive in family conflicts, typically deferring to my mother's stronger personality. "Why didn't you?" I asked, needing to understand. He sighed heavily. "It's easier to go along with your mother and Vanessa. They're both so forceful when they want something. But that's not an excuse. I failed you as a father, and I'm sorry for that." His apology seemed genuine, and I appreciated that he had come alone, without my mother or Vanessa to complicate the conversation. "I can't promise things will change overnight," he continued. "Your mother and Vanessa are still upset about the lockout. But I want you to know that I understand why you did it, and I don't blame you." It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a start, an acknowledgement that my feelings and boundaries were valid. In the days that followed, Vanessa and Trevor found an apartment and arranged to collect their remaining belongings. They didn't contact me directly, instead sending my father to coordinate the details, which was fine with me. The less direct interaction with them, the better. By mid-January, my house was fully my own again. I spent a weekend reclaiming the spaces they had occupied, deep cleaning, rearranging furniture, and making the home feel like mine once more. I also began seeing a therapist, something Maya had gently suggested several times. Dr. Hamilton helped me work through my complicated feelings about my family and validate my decision to set boundaries. "Family relationships are complex," she told me during one session. "But being related to someone doesn't give them the right to disrespect you or take advantage of your generosity." With her guidance, I began drafting what she called a relationship blueprint for future interactions with my family, clearly defining what behaviors I would and would not accept and what consequences would follow if those boundaries were crossed. By the time spring arrived, I had established a new normal in my relationship with my family. I spoke with my father regularly, had occasional stilted conversations with my mother, and maintained a distant but civil relationship with Vanessa, who was indeed pregnant and due in the summer. The family dynamics had shifted, perhaps permanently. I was no longer the accommodating, people-pleasing daughter and sister they had taken for granted. Instead, I was an independent woman with clear boundaries and expectations of respect. Some extended family members still viewed me as the villain in the story, influenced by Vanessa's version of events, but I had made peace with that. I couldn't control others' perceptions, only my own actions and responses. My chosen family, meanwhile, had expanded to include not only Maya and Ethan but also colleagues who had become friends, neighbors I had gotten to know better after hosting a small spring barbecue, and even Aunt Catherine, with whom I now exchanged regular emails and phone calls. 6 months after the Christmas that changed everything, I hosted a dinner party in my home, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me and respected my boundaries. As I looked around the table at the smiling faces engaged in lively conversation, I realized that I had created something valuable and authentic, a community based on mutual respect and genuine connection. The painful experience of being excluded by my family had ultimately led me to a deeper understanding of what family should truly mean. It wasn't about obligation or blood ties, but about respect, support, and love freely given and received. That night, after everyone had gone home and I was cleaning up the kitchen, I found myself smiling at the realization that sometimes the most painful experiences can lead to the most profound growth. By standing up for myself and refusing to be treated as less than, I had discovered my own worth and created a life filled with relationships that reflected that worth. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you in any way, Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life stories about finding strength in challenging situations. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to stand up for yourself, even when it's difficult. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, true family is defined by respect and love, not just shared DNA.